Hey everyone, welcome back. Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, I'm so happy to have you. If you're my previous subscribers, welcome back. Today we're going to cover the Democratic primary 2024. I find it really interesting. I said in my previous video, if you have not watched my Republican primary video, I highly recommend you give that a watch. A lot of the candidates that I read on were very interesting, especially when it comes to the tarot card reading. There was one specific candidate, Chris Christie, that was really surprising. So definitely take a look at that. It's very interesting to see how he helped the Democratic Party. Well, besides that, what I have gotten in the past when it comes to my prediction, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure if I could recall this 100%, so don't hold me accountable to that. But I know I posted this somewhere, whether it's on Facebook group or whether it's on the community tab on my YouTube channel. I said that the candidate with the party with the least amount of competitors will be the party that goes on to win the general election. As of right now, we have the Democrats with 3, with the Republicans having 12, almost 13, with Scott still deciding whether or not he wants to declare his candidacy. So that would be really interesting to really see. Now, the party that actually has the least amount of competitiveness is the third party. As of right now, the third party does not have a likelihood chance, but it could play a major role in this upcoming election. But more than likely not, it wouldn't have a drastic effect with that guy would be the outright winner. But we do have the 3 candidates. We have Democratic Joe Biden, who is the current president of the United States. We have Marianne Williamson and Kennedy. So that would be really interesting to see what today's readings hold. So just check the description below. I will timestamp them for each candidate so you guys can just jump straight to the reading. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon, and let me know in the comment section below what you think of today's video. Without further ado, let's just jump right into it. This video is being recorded on July 11, 2023 at 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And here are some quick disclaimers, so please feel free to read them on your own time by what we wanted them. This video is just for entertainment purposes only and for education purposes only as well. There is no other truth to this, just for entertainment. That's all. Thank you. And you have some other disclaimers on your screen. Just feel free to read that on your own time. All right, so our first candidate up today is Joe Biden. Let's see what Joe Biden's future holds for him in the Democratic primary. Okay, the deck is clear. So, Spirit Angels, tell me about President Joe Biden. What is his future when it comes to the Democratic primary? Okay. And what is his future? What is his outcome for the Democratic primary? This is Joe Biden's, outcome card for the Democratic primary. So this deck here that I'm using to extra clarification, it's called the 2020 Vision Tarot deck, the Major Arcana, which will really help give us more insight on what is going on during the timing of Joe Biden's presidency. I feel like that would be really important. The reason why I didn't do this for the Republicans, well, because they're the outgoing party, which means that won't affect them as heavily as it would with the Democratic Party, because they are the ones that are in power at the moment. The Spirit Angel tell me, with Joe Biden as president of the United States during the Democratic primary of 2024, what is the current situation involving Joe Biden during the Democratic primary process? Okay. Interesting. All right, let's begin. So the first card that we have here for Joe Biden is that he won with overwhelming support in the popular vote in 2020. He won, I think, with 81 million in terms of the popular vote. We have high strength. Now, this was a guy who isn't polling that well. He is not polling compared to the likes of his Democratic predecessors like Barack Obama, but he is nonetheless pretty strong, especially when it comes to policy. There are some hiccups that he has made along the way up until now, but I do see in the past he was a very strong candidate, particularly because, well, the Democratic Party propped him up, technically. And when I say propped him up, I mean basically put this idea in the head that he was the only electable candidate compared to all the other choices that were up front and center, and didn't really allow the Democratic voters to have the ability to pick who they wanted, or rather, who they were told will win. Was that a smart move? I don't know. I mean, honestly, it just kind of takes away the purpose of the democratic process. But the card that's in the middle here is we have the reverse Queen of Pentacles. And the reverse Queen of Pentacles is indicating to me here is it feels like to me he doesn't want to do this, but he kind of has no choice. It almost feels like in his own gut and intuition that he has no choice, he just has to do it. He doesn't really want to become president again. He wants to kind of sit down and enjoy the last of his years. But it feels like to me that he just feels like he's sacrificing something for the greater good. No, I'm not an advocate for Joe Biden. I'm not a supporter of him in any sort. The same way when it comes to the Republican Party, I self-identify independent. But nonetheless, we do have the Queen of Pentacles in reverse, and that does indicate to me that there is some sort of like doubt that he doesn't really want to do this. It's not really something that he wanted to go ahead with, but he kind of feels like he has to just for the betterment of his own judgment. The outcome card is here that is followed is the Ace of Wands. The Ace of Wands card is reversed. And now this talks about leadership, his ability to lead. His ability to lead, to be able to lead a country, especially during troubled times like we're currently experiencing. And it's just going to get worse from here on out. And the reason why it's going to get worse is because of Pluto's return in Biden in the United States birth chart, right? It talked about upheaval, talked about chaos, talked about possibility of a revolution. I'm saying that that's going to happen. But there's a major shift in American policy, a major shift in the healthcare, and almost every aspect. Biden is in the middle of it. He's going to be the turning point for the United States, really. And the question that remains for the Biden presidency when it comes to the Democratic primary is he the man to do the job? Really, is what it comes down to. Because the main challenge that he's going to face during this couple of months leading up to the election, especially when it comes to the Democratic primary, is going to be about sensitive content. And it says here, this object contains sensitive content, which some people may find offensive or disturbing. And this is the Hanged Man. And this is really indicating to me here is speech. Freedom of speech really is what it comes down to the Biden presidency, is how he properly approaches freedom of speech when it comes to freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of protest. That will all play into a major role here. We already saw the major protests during the late stages and early stages of the Biden presidency, and we probably will see it again because if it happened during Donald Trump, it will happen during Biden presidency as well. And that is particularly because they are butterfly effect. What happened under Donald Trump will also happen under Biden's administration because they are basically two polar opposites, but the timing in the situation is very similar, if you know what I mean. So if Trump is in the race up until the general election, Biden will be in the race up until the general election. So Biden and Trump's future are very closely knit together, the same way with Thomas Jefferson and John Adams when they died on July 4th, whatever that was, but they both died on the same day, almost identically a couple minutes apart. The same thing will apply to Joe Biden and Donald Trump, but the only difference is I'm not sure they're going to die on the same day. I'm just saying that their reality, their destiny is tied, intertwined together. So keep that in mind. But his challenge is sensitive content. Well, that could be like maybe people are saying that, the Democratic Party is too sensitive. It could be problems that are happening in the U.S. or the United States in general that is very sensitive, potentially violence or something like that of some sort. That would indicate this type of sensitive content blur that will prevent the public from seeing it. What else, Spirits and Angels? We do have the Tower card. So the Tower card comes down, and it does indicate to me that this is Washington, D.C. This indicates to me that there is going to be some sort of challenges, particularly to the mental reality. So what it is indicating, because you look at the color here, it talks about the color purple, and the purple is indicating the crown, the head. There's something going on in the head, and I'm not talking about mental illness or stuff like that, but there is something that is indicating well-being, whether or not he can perform his job as directed. Is it because of age? Is it because, like, he might be experiencing what Ronald Reagan might be experiencing, where it's like early onset Alzheimer's, maybe early dementia, stuff like that. We're going to start seeing this type of health scares start to take play. Now, it does not indicate whether or not he has these, but it is indicating that this would be a major factor going into that primary election, that people will attack him saying that he's not fit to lead because he's too old to be able to lead. So that's really what he's going to come down to when it comes to struggling, whether or not Joe Biden is going to be the front runner for the Democratic primary. Now, the good thing is it does not indicate whether he's going to be the front runner. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to read on Williamson and Kennedy. But I'm going to circle around and do all three and see who will be the front runner for the Democratic primary. But as of right now, Joe Biden does not look like he's the front runner because he's having a lot of challenges that will plague his administration. So that's what I see for Joe Biden. Okay, so we're going to now cover Marianne Williamson. So let's get ready for her. Okay, so Spirits and Angels, tell me about Marianne Williamson. How likely is she to win the Democratic primary in 2024? Okay, but how is she doing presently? Okay, and what is her final outcome for Marianne Williamson for the Democratic primary? Will she become the Democratic primary nominee for the presidency? And this card here, the deck that I'm using is the 2020 Vision Tarot deck. This will allow me to be able to help understand what the Democratic Party is going through during the time in which this Democratic primary is taking place that may change the way the race is going for the Democratic primary. Oh, God. Okay. So the first card that we have here on the left side here is with the Three of Cups. And the Three of Cups card here is indicating to me is support. She's very spiritual. She's very out there. She's different is what I would say. She's very different. And she has been saying a lot of things that got a lot of people like worked up and say, hey, you know what? This is what our government should be doing. This is what our government should be wanting. That's kind of like what I see for Williamson. Now, I will stay here that I am a supporter of Marianne Williamson, but my bias is out of this. I'm not putting my bias in this, particularly because I really want to see what her reading is. And in general, I don't put any of my opinions into the reading. I always tell you guys in advance before I read. So I just want to make sure that's aware now. But when I come to the Three of Cups here, like I said, she did try to practice the formation of love and try to fight through love and with love. That'll be really interesting to see how this will play out in the rest of the cards. So let's take a look. So the next card here is we have the lack of support, lack of money fundraising. I don't think she really has the money to be able to become president, or at least to be able to defeat Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. Now, the problem with this I also see is that she's going to end up running in the same situation as Bernie Sanders did with Hillary Clinton back in 2016 when it came to the Democratic primary, where she would win certain states, he won certain states, but it just somehow ended up going to the Hillary Clinton camp. And that's really where it comes down to the same thing. Williamson is going to perpetuate this idea that the Democratic convention does not like the idea of having people, vote and pick who they want as their candidate, but instead have the media or the Democratic convention pick who they think would better fit or who they think would better be your president, rather than you, the individual voter, pick who you want as your president. And that's what I'm seeing here, that there'll be some sort of suspicion and action that would be taken by the Democratic convention that may indicate that, you may not really have a 100% true say in who you want as your Democratic primary nominee. We do have the reverse Hierophant. And the reverse Hierophant is normally the card that whenever a person is sitting on the seat, this is my interpretation and my intuition. Whenever somebody is sitting on a seat, that normally indicates presidency, or they have the job, or they have something of that thing that they are seeking. However, she is reverse. And that is telling me here that maybe she is not the nominee. Maybe she is not the front runner. She is not what she really wanted, so to speak. Can we have clarification for Marianne Williamson, please, spirits and angels? Yeah, so we had the victory card though. So in a way, there's something here that she does. Maybe it's a certain policy that she keeps hammering and getting those two other candidates like Kennedy and Joe Biden to back and support because of how popular those policies are. So it does feel like in some way there's going to be some sort of success that's going to take place within the Marianne Williamson camp that's going to really help her out in the long run, especially when it comes to certain policies that the Joe Biden and the Kennedy administration is going to have to try to really either take that and say, hey, we support you on that, or no, we don't support you. And it's a popular policy that she initiated. So it's all done by her. Now, in terms of the main issue that's going to be plaguing her campaign, her administration, will be the devil card. And the devil card is reversed. Now, we all know what this card symbolizes. We all know what this has symbolizes. And it's reversed. And what this is indicating to me is that almost in a way, it feels like, because it's reversed, it almost feels like, okay, so you have the party of hate, right? You have the party of people trying to hurt each other or whatever it is, whatever that party will represent. I can't really say it here because of YouTube community guidelines, but it does seem to me as if there is a solution to fighting the devil. And the solution is, like I said earlier, it's the action of, fighting hate with love. And that's what it's kind of indicating to me is that there's actually a possibility that we can actually fix this problem by fighting it through the version of love, because there's no better way to fight hate than to give somebody love. Because most of the time, hate originates from the lack of love or lack of understanding what love truly feels like. And because of that, people are able to put forth that idea or perpetuate that idea. And that's what this card is indicating. It's indicating here that the devil card is all about hate, hate, hate. And her campaign is all about love, 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 which would make a lot of sense why hers is the exact opposite. And that's the main challenge is how can we fight hate when through love? And that's really what her campaign is going to come down to. I really feel like that's going to be one of the main issues that she's going to really hone down and focus on. The bottom of the card here, we do have the High Priestess reverse, which is constellation. I think a lot of her policies and a lot of the things that she's going to do is based around astrology. So the best way to really read on Marianne Williamson's future and whether or not she has any prospect of winning the Democratic primary is to really read through her astrology chart. So we'll go through a more in-depth video in another time when it comes to Marianne Williamson's future. I do have some constellation cards. We do have some tarot cards when it comes to astrology that may be beneficial for reading on Marianne Williamson, specifically because she is spiritual. So we have a stronger connection to her than just say an average person like Joe Biden or Kennedy, because his name is like really weird. It has too many Robert, too many Ted, all that thing. But anyway, besides the point, that's Marianne Williamson. That is what I see for her. It does not specify whether or not she's going to become a front runner, but it does indicate that she will have a major impact on the Democratic primary. Like I said in the Joe Biden reading, at the end of this video, I'm going to do who will be the front runner for the Democratic primary and find out who. Because as of right now, it seems to be 2 people out of 3 where we still don't know who the front runner is for the Democratic primary. So stay tuned for the end of the video. Okay, so we're going to cover Robert F. Kennedy Jr. today. So we're going to take a reading and see whether or not he's going to become the next Democratic Party nominee. So let's find out. And at the end of this video, if you don't find out if he is the front runner for the Democratic Party, we're going to do a reading on who is going to become the Democratic Party's front runner. All right. Spirits and angels, tell me. Hold on, I'm getting the energy to clear this deck for. Okay. The deck has been cleared. So Spirits and angels, tell me about Robert F. Kennedy. What is it that we need to know about Robert F. Kennedy? What is his chances or prospect of winning the Democratic primary in 2024? What is his future? His current president. Okay, and his outcome. Will he become the Democratic Party nominee for the 2024 election? Okay. We are also going to be using today this 2020 Vision Tarot deck. This will allow me to understand the problem facing this administration or campaign for the Democratic Party, as the Democrats are currently right now in power. So these would affect the Democrats more than it would for the Republicans, which is why I did not do this for the video. Okay, they told me to flip the deck. They told me to take the first 3. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Interesting. So let me do the issues facing the campaign, then we're going to read on his actual thing. So the issues facing him is going to be the solar flare. When it comes to environmental change, when it comes to the stunt and conspiracies, he's going to be on the hot radar. He's going to say something that's a little bit wacky or stuff that you would normally not hear for the Democratic Party, that you would normally hear for the Republican Party. So he's going to be, more what you will call, you wouldn't necessarily call him a moderate, but by the definition of Marianne Williamson and Joe Biden, he's technically classified as a moderate because he can compete for the Republican Party vote as a Democrat. And that's kind of like what makes him really interesting as a candidate for the Democratic Party, that he can really compete with the Republican for their vote while also holding to some of their voters for the Democrats, which means that he actually has a probability high prospect of winning the general election, but he wouldn't be able to hold in some votes that you would normally expect elsewhere. Now we do have the strength card, and it does show a black cat. And what the first card that kind of reminds me, well, Black Panther really. What I'm seeing here more than anything, I'm seeing black sheep. He's the black sheep of the Democratic Party. He's basically a forgotten one, or the odd one out. Like the middle child. What it kind of indicates to me is that he is weird. It's probably what I would go with. And the card that also follows the Fool, right? The Fool card. She is going to be a surprise candidate, is what I will say. He's a surprise candidate. We do have here, in the past here, we had the Magician. His ancestors in the past, as you guys all know, the Kennedy family, the Kennedy curse, you name it. They were presidents. One of them was president, one got assassinated. But besides the point, there were a lot of his family's heavily in politics. And because of that, it's indicating to me that he was wielding a sword, but he's wielding a wand, like what he says he creates. And that's kind of like what it indicates to me. It indicates creationism, especially when it comes to the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. camp. It almost feels like he's going to be saying some wacky stuff, policy that you never heard of. He's going to say some really strange stuff. It's unexplainable, even from my end, to how to even explain it correctly. Now, he will have the Emperor's card. And the Emperor's card does indicate calmness, peace, environment. So it does say he is going to be more of a person who's going to be very pro-environment. So somebody who's going to be very crazy and very out there. But you're also going to have somebody who's very chill and relaxed when it comes to the environmental aspect of things like that. So definitely keep that in mind. It's very interesting. It's two very polar opposite. Literally two polar opposite energies coming in. He has the creation and wand energy. Then he has this Empress energy, which is indicating environment. So it almost feels like it's an equal balance. I've also seen at the Temperance card. The Temperance card kind of gives that equilibrium. And he's kind of like, at times he's crazy, but at other times he's like really calm and soothing. You can listen to him. While other times you're like, okay, I can't listen to this. It's just way too bonkers. It's kind of like what that is. But also kind of symbolized here as well, because if you look at her, she kind of indicates, and it looks very similar to the Statue of Liberty. If you look at the stars on her head and the wand that she's holding, it does indicate to me that he does represent a certain part of the United States of the olden days. So that's going to be really interesting to kind of see how that plays in and what part of the olden days that he truly represents, whether that's the good part or the bad parts of America. And I don't know. It's just really weird. And I'm seeing like 13 colonies here, but I don't know. We'll see. We'll see when it comes to that. I don't really know exactly what he's trying to represent. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt and allow him to develop that himself. We do have here, when it comes to the future, though, we do have the Lover's card reverse. We do have the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We do have the 9 of Swords reversed, and that to me is indicating that he's going to have some sort of. Actually, you know what? I don't actually think he's going to have that problem. Let me see what the last card is. Okay, we have the Fool card from. Okay, that's interesting how the Fool card comes up twice for him. Comes up twice. We have the Sun card. We also have the Sun card. These are all major arcana, which is true. They all are already major arcana anyway. And then you look at his other cards in deck. He has what? He has one. He has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Right? 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So he has 7 major arcana out of one card that's not a major arcana. That's really interesting to say the least. So let's take a read. Let's read. So the first card that we have here, we have the Lovers card reverse. He's not really a big fan of the Biden-Harris administration because this is a card that really represents the Biden-Harris administration. He's going to criticize the Biden administration, maybe the handle of COVID. There's going to be a lot of issues that he's going to be attacking Biden for. So definitely keep that in mind when it comes to who you're voting for in the Democratic primary. But it does indicate to me that that is what he's going to be targeting. His main target is going to be Biden, which makes sense because he's running against him. We do have the 9 of Swords. Now, a lot of people think that he wouldn't have enough support in the Democratic primary, but that kind of tells me that's not really the case here. He might have more support than you really realize, right? And you do have the Fool card, and that's reverse. A lot of people are not going to take him as, the way they took Donald Trump as a candidate who can't be taken seriously, who doesn't have the ability to actually win. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. actually had a high shot of winning the Democratic primary. He does have a high shot, and the reason for that is particularly because he has that equilibrium of temperance. He has that ability where he's outright insane, but then he also has that really calm, soothing effect, but kind of gives him that perfect balance. And he also as well, he also has the equal balance of being able to get some of the Republican vote, while also holding on to some of the Democratic vote, giving him an equal winning chance of winning the general election against the Republicans in 2024. So he does have a high probability of winning the Democratic primary. It's really what it comes down to is how the Biden administration approaches and handled those attacks from the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. campaign. Let me get some other clarifications because I find it really interesting to see. Any other information that we need to know on Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Democratic primary consensus against the President Joe Biden and Marianne Williamson for the Democratic primary? Anything else that we need to know about Robert F. Jr.? Okay, excuse me. So the card that came out with the Tower card. Now, the Tower card is getting rid of the status quo, toppling the person at the top and rebuilding from the top up. That's the Tower card. The Tower card is reversed. And we also followed by the lack of campaign funding. So Biden administration is going to actually have a lot more money in terms of the treasure chest than, to say Robert F. Kennedy Jr. will. But it does say that there is an indication that potentially it could topple. And that would make a lot of sense because there is going to be a Tower moment. And the Tower card came from the Biden administration. Right? The Tower card was in the Biden administration. When we run on Biden, we had the Tower card. Right? But when we read on Robert F. Kennedy Jr., that has the Tower card but reversed. And the Tower card is almost indicating to me that potentially if Biden is out of the picture or something happens to Biden, he is going to be the forefront runner. But now we also talked about during the Biden reading that we talked about that there are going to be some attacks on him in terms of his mental capabilities, in terms of his stuff like that, his age and stuff like that. I expect it to truly come from the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. compartment as he is going to be attacking the Biden campaign continuously, relentlessly about his age. And that's where his main focus in terms of Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is going to be attacking Biden, his policies, attacking Biden on his mental stability, his health, and stuff like that, whether or not he can lead as a functional leader, his former policy that he enacted. That's going to be issues that's going to be centered around for the Robert F. Kennedy Jr. camp. Unfortunately, it has come to the conclusion that we are not able to have a direct frontrunner for the Democratic primary. I do have a feeling that there's going to be a few more people entering the Democratic primary before the primary season fully gets into full swing and voting starts soon. But I am having this in total gut feeling that there are going to be more Democratic contenders. So this video is in suspension. There will be more videos like this in the future because I do see that there's going to be more contenders and more candidates for the Democratic primary. But nonetheless, just to say that we know we have all 3 candidates up against each other and we have nobody else. hypothetically, what would that look like? We're going to do that right now. So we have Biden versus Williamson versus Kennedy. We're going to see who is going to become the Democratic frontrunner. Just to say, up until now, until the Democratic primary, those are the only three who are going to become the next Democratic primary victor, who is going to be the contender. Okay, Spirit Angels, tell me who is going to become the Democratic primary contender for the 2024 presidential election. The way we're going to do this is we're going to ask the card or the deck for one card that represents each individual person, right? So let's say, Williamson represents this card, and I put it back in the deck. And if she comes out first, she is the person that is represented as president. And I mean, as the presidential nominee. That's what I mean. So we're going to do that right now. So Spirit will be really interesting. So Biden, Williamson, Kennedy. We're going to put them in. I should write that down. Just right on. So you can see me putting this back in the tower deck. Oh, we have to reverse. I should just make sure it says reverse. Okay. Now let's do it. Spirit Angels, tell me who will become the Democratic Party nominee for the presidency of the United States in 2024. Is it Joe Biden? Is it Marianne Williamson? Or is it Robert F. Kennedy? Who will become the victor in the Democratic primary if it was all three of them against each other? Who will win? Okay, so the card that we have here is the challenge to this question is the moon card reverse. I mean the moon card sideways. And this is indicating hidden voters. So it tells me here that, like I said, Robert F. Kennedy is a surprise candidate. He's going to say something that's going to be very weird, but yet calming. What this tells me here that he's going to be bringing in voters that you wouldn't really expect in the Democratic primary. So that would really indicate here the moon card. Same thing Williamson. She's going to bring in voters that you would normally not see in a Democratic primary. We do have the sun card. And the sun card is the candidates, right? All of them. Who can defeat the Republican Party candidate? That's really what it comes down to in the past. Now we do have the Queen of Pentacles reversed. And the Queen of Pentacles of reverse is women's rights. It also indicates babies, children. How can they approach children? The topic of children in general, when it comes to children like babies, whether it comes to abortion, whether it comes to school, education, you name it. Anything that involves younger minds, younger than 25, this is what it indicates. It does indicate also in the future card here is candidates. But there's only one front runner, but no matter how many candidates there are. Right? You see all the candidates, but you have one that's in the head in the polling, who's leading. Right? It does not show up any of the cards like Biden, does not show Robert F. Kennedy, does not show Williamson. But I do have a feeling there's going to be a few more candidates who are going to jump into the Democratic primary. But Spirits and Angels tell me who have the likeliest chance of becoming the Democratic Party's nominee for presidency of the United States in 2024. Is it Biden, is it Williamson, or is it Kennedy? Who is it? Who will most likely have the highest chance of becoming the Democratic Party's contender? Yeah, so you see how we have three? It's the fourth one. So whoever the fourth one is, I don't know exactly who's possibly wanting to come in to the election, but there's a fourth choice here. And I think the fourth choice might be the one. So I'm going to actually do some research and find out who that fourth person is, but there's somebody else. Let's see. What we're going to do now is we're going to ask the tower deck what side to pick, and we'll find out who is the Democratic contender, but I don't see that we can me answer because it feels like it's too early to tell. So I'm going to go from the top. Okay, I'm going to make sure you guys can see me do this. Okay. Okay, so we have Biden. Biden is the likeliest person. Yeah, I'm going through it right now just to double check to make sure I didn't miss a card. Yeah, so Biden is the likeliest chance to become the Democratic contender, but they're the fourth choice. So we don't know exactly who that fourth choice is, but as of right now, Biden is the one that's leading. But I gotta say, the Democratic Party is pretty competitive. So I'm actually quite surprised, but also not surprised if that makes any sense. But let's see. See if I could put this up on the screen now so you guys can see me do this. Okay. Democratic. Let's see. Maybe there's somebody missing. Oh, okay. So we have the decision pending Joe Manchin. Okay, that's an album. Of all the people, Joe Manchin was not the one that I expected. Okay. Last I don't know. I just get a weird feeling. I don't think it's him. I don't think it's him. I think it gotta be somebody else. Okay, so it's Marianne Williamson, it's Robert F. Kennedy. There's nobody else. Let's see. Is there anyone else possibly thinking about it? I don't really see anybody else. All right. So that's what I'm thinking. So honestly, at this point in time, we don't really know exactly who is planning to run against Joe Biden. There might not even be one. It's just going to be very interesting, to say the least, who will end up as the Democratic Party nominee and the Republican Party's nominee. I hope you guys like this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.